welcome everyone to another episode of All Consuming Podcast. Today we get to talk about one of the best releases of the year.
Hey, it's early, but you're right.
Yeah, we're going to talk about HolyName.
Yes.
Which just came out like almost 2 weeks from us recording this right now.
Yep.
But before we do that, I thought we would catch up because the holidays are over and I haven't talked to you.
It's been a minute, dude.
Yeah. So what's new? You got anything going on?
You know, I think this is a great time of the year. For me, like, busyness is not really there. So, like, we're in between sports. I start coaching golf in, like,
that's a stressful sport.
Dude, no, it's so killer. I know. But, like, I go work on my short game, you know, get that working and just watch other kids, you know, hit the ball.
You're like, yeah, just do better, kids. I'm trying to concentrate here.
That is the extent of it. So, got to prepare for that. But, man, like, I'm excited for the podcast. I'm excited to have some time to get some recording in and attack this new music. It, like, this is weird. But speaking of the podcast.
Okay.
So, I got an email from a coworker at school. And she said, hey, I hear you do a podcast. What do you use to edit? And instead of replying and saying, I don't edit, Gary does.
Is this a similar generation as us? Or?
Yeah. Very, very similar.
Okay.
And instead of saying, like, I don't do any of the editing, I just watch Gary edit.
You're like, oh, let me tell you all the things we do.
And so I said, you know, here's an option, like, for you know, if kids are doing a podcast, because that was her assignment. Like, kids are recording an episode of a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, hey, there's a free software. It's actually on, like, our district stuff. Is Audacity, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I said it's pretty user-friendly, even though I don't really...
Yeah, you're like, it's user-friendly, but I will never edit an episode.
And so, you know, if you need help, I got this guy named Gary that... No. And so she said, oh, awesome, thanks, you're the best, you know? And then, like, the following days, students that were obviously in her class.
Yeah.
When she explained, hey, Mr. Hogue said, here's what he uses for his podcast.
Oh, no. Uh-huh.
They all said, you have a podcast? And they said, I looked up your podcast on Spotify. I kid you not, dude. So this one kid's, like, getting really into it, like, listening to it. Uh-huh. And he listened to our Christmas episode. He said, oh, that second band was hilarious. It was The Undertaking, which is awesome. And he's like, but you guys are kind of boring.
Ow.
I know. I was like, you can't say that to my face. And so if there's an uptick in listens or if an uptick in follows or whatever, it's because a bunch of high schoolers were told by their English teacher that I have a podcast and here's what I use to edit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting and awkward. And
very much, you know, like, we don't talk about anything like this is a very family-friendly podcast.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have any worries about, like, any of that, you know, but, like, it's just like, okay. They're like, you really, like, listen to that music? No, I just make a podcast about it. And
I just have all these opinions, and I've been doing this for 2 years, but I don't really listen.
Yeah. So, well, that's what I'm going through. What's up with you?
Well, I don't have anything that exciting. I mean, holidays are over, which means everyone, like, my company is, you know, global. So everyone's back to work, and now all these things are happening. And I've been working, like, 12-hour days for, like, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been killing me.
Oof.
But I'm excited to get back to recording and talking about stuff. And
for sure.
For work to chill out.
Yeah.
But so I'm here in my sweater blanket. Got my coffee.
You're really chilling right now, dude.
Well, I'm toasting now. This thing's getting kind of hot.
So if you obviously can't see Gary, but he has what I would say is a Snuggie. He swears it's not.
It's not a Snuggie. So Snuggies, you just put your sleeves through on the front, right? And it's just a blanket.
Yeah.
This is a sweater, right? It's got a little hoodie. It's got pockets. But it's, like, gigantic. And it's like a big old fleece blanket material.
So it's like a Snuggie Deluxe, or like a sweater that's in the form of a blanket.
Yes. It's like a blanket that was sewed together to give you armholes and a hoodie. But anyway.
It looks good on you, though. It kind of looks like...
It's super baggy.
It's sort of like just original thought, like kind of looks like some sort of like priest outfit.
like huge thick robes or something.
Yeah,
I'm like a monk.
You're about to, do something. So, yeah.
I told my wife how much I liked this. I got it for her birthday, which is in like November. Told her how much I liked it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. It'd be nice if I had one. Dropping hints. And then December rolls around. I'm like, man, I wished I had one. And my wife's very pregnant right now. Yeah. And her complaint was they don't make like maternity big ol' sweaters, right? So she's cold all the time. And I'm like, I need to find a sweater that is huge that she can wear like all the time, even after the kids here. And I found sweater blankets, and I'm like, those are awesome. So great idea. She loves it, wears it all the time. Anyway, so I'm like super jealous because I'm like, I wished I had this giant baggy blanket thing because we're freezing up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Sure.
Anyway, dropping hints. Christmas Day comes.
She gets you one.
No. I didn't get one. And I'm sure she's going to listen to this and roll her eyes and be like, I didn't think you would actually use it. Why can't you share mine? Anyway, she's in bed right now. I'm wearing her sweater blanket.
You're wearing your wife's maternity sweater blanket.
That's
right.
To
record our hardcore, metalcore, heavy music podcast.
Yeah. So how about we start off with Meet Me Somewhere Quiet?
The first single, Meet Me Somewhere Quiet. My first thoughts, like it, right? Super cool. It was different. It was the first single. But like my first thought, and I don't know why, in our college ministry, we'd always sing this song called In the Secret. And it's like super popular 90s.
Not even college. I mean, I heard that in like Sunday school, kids' church.
I first heard it in college. That's how crazy it is. Because I was fairly newly saved, right?
Right.
But anyways, it still reminds me of that. In the Secret, in the quiet place. Which is not a bad song. Like, I played that song multiple times for churches that I've done worship for, right?
Right.
And I like it. And there's this really cool, like, introspective. Is it, like, the best, like, let's sing to a congregation of people about this secret, quiet place where we want to go?
Uh-huh.
Maybe not. But, like, this song gives me so much of that vibes.
Tyler, where is your quiet place?
But, like, I love this as knowing this is just something he wrote. Like, it was his, like, prayers, his journaling, his, like, thoughts. Like, I love that idea. And it was meant to be, like, acoustic. And he sent it and said, hey, can you make this heavy? And Joe Holt put down some awesome...
Well, yeah, he wrote it in, like, 2016, right?
Yes.
After... for I Am album. And it's like, acoustic doesn't really fit with Sleeping Giant. How can we do this? And so they didn't even get to do anything with it until recently.
Right. And he sends it, says, can you make this heavy? And, like, there's some nasty, disgusting riffs on this. And also, like, some pretty, like, super low-key worship. For me... when he starts getting to, like, just, talks about the secret place, all that. But when he gets to just, like, all the Jesus I've come, all this stuff. And then, like, Jesus I love. Like, all this, like, it's crazy. I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, man, you know how many times this dude says Jesus in this song? She's like, she guessed. I was like, no.
Almost as much as Lecrae. Going, like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Dude, yeah. And I don't know, but, like, it's just, like, this heart, like, talking to... It makes me, like, want my life to be like that. Like, I want to go and just, like, say Jesus, like, and talk to him. Like, I don't do that. Mm-hmm. But, like, and I think that's what I love about, like, there's parts of the charismatic movement that I do like. And, like, Tommy Green's a really great example. He's been this way for a long time. Like, It is a relationship, an intimate relationship, and that piece of Christianity is so true. And sometimes I think people more on the Reformed side or the conservative Christian, not the political party, but the conservative side, right. they don't do that. You know, it kind of is left out. And maybe like charismatic side goes too far into it. I don't know, but like there's something there. Mm-hmm. There's something there that when that happens and I'm listening to the song and I'm singing along, like I feel it move in me. You know.
So favorite track?
No, not my favorite track.
Same. I do like it for many of the same reasons you do. Like listening to this, I was driving my son to Awana this week, and you know when the music stops and he just very gently and softly sings Jesus.
Yeah.
I love to be with you.
Yeah.
Like my son's like, Dad, is this a God song? I'm like, yes, it is. But it's a very humble and vulnerable song.
Yeah.
And I've already heard some people in Christian circles like kind of make fun of this song.
Sure.
Because it's like, it sounds like he wants to make love with Jesus.
I mean, he does say the place where only lovers go.
Yeah, yeah.
And every time that happens, I'm like, I don't know. Like, those are like the pieces that like I've just never like fully jumped on. Like, and that's like that side. But like, even that, there's something to this idea of a relationship between Jesus and the bride.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but a lot of songs that, a lot of worship songs, they don't go to this like intimate, vulnerable, like closeness, right? They're often God is the king and we're bowing.
Yes.
Right.
For sure.
And so it's just a different perspective, and I think a lot of people aren't here for that, but some people are.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I think musically too, like, and this is a song where you're right, man. You turn this thing up in the car and you just feel it. Like, you just feel the way, especially when it starts building towards the end, the drums happen, and it's kind of like a singing back and forth, the ending, sort of. And you feel it and you understand, like, what HolyName is trying to do. I think that's when, like, I understood it. Like, I got it at some point. I was like, this is what HolyName is. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to be a worship band. And I saying that knowing from what you said about worship, but like worship with hardcore. With hardcore. Not hardcore worship.
Right. The band identifies themselves as like holy drone violent worship.
Sure.
But something I was trying to say earlier that I forgot about, and I'm going to say it now. I mean, you're totally right. There's something, when a song plays, there's just something that right? Yep. Every song on this album, if someone played 2 seconds of it, you would know that it's from this album because it has that ambient cathedral reverb.
Yeah.
And, it has this like low droning, just simple chugs and bass. And I think there's something to be enjoyed about that. But yeah, the outro piece that you're getting to, there's a word that I don't know how to describe the sound that they do. It's like this droning, right? But I'm going to use the word scrongly.
I've never heard that word.
Yeah, it's a guitar word. To describe like this like crazy bass and electric rumbling that occurs on many, 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 many songs. And it's just kind of like this heavy when the singing stops, right? It's like it just takes over. Super cool.
It's a different sound, right? And so like for me, like I can hear Norma Jean's guitar. Not in this. I'm just saying in general I can hear it and say that's Norma Jean's sound. Right? Mm-hmm. You hear this guitar and you don't hear it very often. It's crunchy but like drony and like staticky in a sense. Mm-hmm. But there's just like this heaviness to it, right? I actually love the sound.
Yeah.
And this, like, especially when there's like towards the end, there's a pause, everything stops, then it comes back in and it's just like, oh, we're going heavier.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about this secret place where we're going to go like meet with Jesus and worship him, to heavy breakdown to just filthy. Like, okay, so how does this, if this is ever performed live, like HolyName ever performs live, how does this happen? How does it work? Everyone just like worships, hands up for like the majority of the song. Then the breakdown happens, and you're just throwing
Hardcore
elbows.
dancing. Yeah,
Hardcore.
yeah.
Like that would be sweet to just see.
Furnace Fest 2023. Let's go.
Let's make it happen, HolyName. Come on. Like I think that would be just like an experience like that. I would just you're not gonna get anywhere, right? Yeah. Like I can't even put that into what it would be like.
Totally. I hear you,
dude. Am I hyped right now? Is this the most hyped I've ever been on a podcast?
On an episode. You've only been on this podcast.
Oh, true. On an episode.
I think so.
Dude,
I don't know.
I do currently have a 30 ounce. It's a Trenta 30-ounce iced coffee from Starbucks that I bought at 5:30 that I'm still drinking.
You're it's taking you like 4 hours to drink.
And so I just have this like slow input of caffeine into my bloodstream. So maybe that's why I'm so hyped, or maybe it's because HolyName is awesome.
I will say you are way more amped about this, like in our texts and chatting and stuff throughout the week. And you're like, let's do HolyName. And I was like, really? I mean, we have so many stuff from last year we could do. Like, look, we could do this. And he's like, I'm serious. It felt like it was a threat.
I have to do that with you because we joke a lot, right? We joke about everything. Uh-huh. And so when I'm, who knows? You might think that, oh, he's just pulling my leg. No, I'm serious. Okay, so I think that wraps up Meet Me Somewhere Quiet. Mm-hmm. Awesome song. First single I heard. This next song we're going to talk about, I didn't hear till the album dropped.
Our manly podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think it kind of fits with HolyName a little bit, like a little soft. I'm just kidding. I can't go there right now. No, I'm not even going to try to make it equivalent. Anyways, so HolyName, right? This is
just rock, right?
This is interesting, okay? Somewhere, Meet Me Somewhere Quiet, released a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Like 2021.
Yeah. So what did you think like when you first heard HolyName? What were your thoughts?
So I remember when they even teased just a new band signing.
Yeah.
And it was before the song, they just had like a skull and thorns and stuff on it and the little, cross thing on his forehead.
Yeah.
And I was like, what on earth is this? Like, did Cultist get signed? This is before Cultist got signed.
Sure.
Like, who does this kind of stuff? And I was super confused. And anyway, song came out, HolyName, Tommy's on it. I was like, yes, we're going to get more preachcore. Here we go.
Sure.
And, well, we didn't get that.
We didn't get preachcore, no.
So part of me... you and I, we spend a lot of time talking about music and analyzing it and trying to figure things out. So I'm pretty good at, like, putting my bias aside. But Gary, by himself, not using analytical mind, I was upset. Like, this is not... Okay, lyrically, it's great. I like the song, but I was wanting hard.
You were wanting a Sleeping Giant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I read some interviews and saw stuff that he was writing and whatnot, and got an understanding of what this was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I respect it.
Sweet.
I'm at the time, right? I liked it. But I wasn't like all on board like some people were. They're like, yes, worship hardcore, let's go. I'm in. And yeah. What about you? What were your initial thoughts?
I feel like this podcast episode could be a little bit different than usual. I'm usually the one that has to come around to something, right? Like Phineas or Demon Hunter or whatever, right? And so I feel like this one's a little bit different. I suggested this to you. I said, let's do HolyName. I'm in. Like, I'm actually not sure there's a bad song on the album. If this was in 2022, like, I might have called it album of the year for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we'll get into that stuff. But anyways, when I first heard it, like, this is typical me. I was the same way. I wanted Sleeping Giant, thought it was Sleeping Giant. Listened to Meet Me Somewhere Quiet, and I still liked it. Like, I liked it a lot for what it was. And I listened to it a lot. Like, it was definitely played a ton for me. And I thought it was interesting, like, and like, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but like the outro, how hard it is and how like worshipful and soft the vocals were, right? Just completely different, But I ended up liking it. Then they released some more singles. I think Fall on My Knees was next.
Yeah.
Perpetua was after that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't listen. Like, I listened and I just stopped.
Right.
Because those next two, and my opinions have changed, those next two, if you thought Meet Me Somewhere Quiet was not Sleeping Giant,
yeah,
we now got even less. Further away from what Sleeping Giant was. And so I stopped. And I didn't listen to another single that was released after Perpetua until the album came out.
Right.
And so, like, at first, I don't know if I was in, mostly because I was like, I want Sleeping Giant, kind of like you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I backpedaled too. Like, you know, like, so when that single Fall on My Knees came out, like, it was like 8 minutes long.
Yeah. Yes.
I only was there for the last minute.
Right. You have to wait 7 minutes or whatever for Brooke to come in.
Yeah, and I just wasn't feeling it, and that kind of killed me. Everyone else in the world, at least in my feeds and social media circles, was like beyond stoked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't get this. I don't know why everyone's excited. This is not that great. And people are like, already album of the year.
Right.
And I mean, then and now, I don't think it'll be album of the year.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to come out in the rest of 2023. This is early, right? Super early. So I don't know.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to come out, but like for the freshness, the different, the lyrics, for me, like there's a lot here that I'm excited to talk about.
So instead of talking about past and original initial thoughts, let's move to like the now. How would you describe to someone who has not heard any of this and they're like, boy, you guys are really not talking positively about HolyName. What is this episode going to be like? How would you describe, in your words, what they sound like? Like what are they? Who are they?
Okay. Do not take this the wrong way.
I will.
Okay. It is okay. It is Hillsong or, popular church worship. Maybe not lyrical. Well, it's not necessarily like Hillsong content, but it has that type of feel, right? With hardcore in it.
Okay.
Like it's hardcore actual worship. It's not like hardcore that has worship lyrics. It's hardcore elements and also straight up congregational worship.
Okay.
Like if you're going to literally just put the Apostles' Creed where you sing it, don't even scream it, you just sing it in a song, like that's just congregational worship to me. And then all of a sudden there's like, boom, there's hardcore screaming, and then boom, like the next thing you know is you have a breakdown with a blood at the end. So I would say like it's actual worship, congregational worship. Like you could put some pieces of this and sing it at your church, and your grandma's not going to care. She's going to be like, I love this. Then all of a sudden, the riff hits or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's hardcore. It's a Sleeping Giant song.
Okay. So I might disagree.
Okay.
Not necessarily about your description, Hillsong with hardcore, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's far off. But so to me, I feel like there's three kinds of Christian songs. And a lot of people harp on the third kind. The first kind is worship, where the song is written to Jesus. Like it's literally the you is God, right?
Sure.
So that's like directional worship to God, like Meet Me Somewhere Quiet. Then you have songs that are Christian in that they edify Christians, like Creed.
But Creed's different, though. Creed's literally doctrine, like, and you can worship through that.
About God.
Yeah.
I would not say that is to God, right? It's telling people who God is, right?
Sure.
Not necessarily, and I don't know, like some people will be like, yeah, that's worship. Right. But there's also some people in some Reformed camps that are friends of mine that would be like, that is not a worship song. And then the third kind is just kind of outreach, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's just Christians with a perspective or a Christian lens talking about something, the downtrodden, whatever, and saying there's hope. And people go, hey, I went to your live show and I heard you sing this song. What do you mean there's hope? Like, who is this about? And they could be like, Jesus, gotcha, reel them in, right?
Right.
And that's like an outreach, right? And so the lyrics are typically kind of ambiguous. You're not really sure. Christians will listen and go, oh, yeah, it's about God. We got that. The regular world will listen and go, that song's dope.
It's about helping your brother out, or whatever, yeah.
Right. And so I think this band, HolyName, is the first two kinds.
Yeah, for sure.
There's some songs that I think are about God and for the body to edify, and then some songs are directed to God. Yeah. But anyway, I feel like I wanted to go down this rabbit hole. I don't know why. It's not even in my notes. So anyways.
Yeah.
Can I throw my complaint in before we get started?
You have to, yeah. Let's do it.
All right. My complaint with the whole album. I am not sold on it. I like it. Oh. It's good. Don't hate on me, right? My complaint is the cathedral reverb on Tommy's voice. I don't connect with it. I don't like it. It might be that my first time hearing a lot of these songs, it was on my phone.
Sure.
And so that reverb sound is just very tinny, and it takes out all the other sounds. So it's just really like a mix or an editing complaint, and I get why he does it, right? He's going back to a cathedral or like a Orthodox Christian, and people think cathedrals big things. His voice is very reverby to sing.
Yeah.
To sound good.
Sure. Yeah, reverb helps.
Well, this isn't just reverb. This is like a lot. And so okay, later when I listen to it like in the car really loud.
Yeah.
Like it's way better loud.
Right. For sure. I totally agree.
Yeah. My recommendation is if this is your first time, start loud.
Yeah.
On good quality speakers. Because then the cathedral like ambient singing is not in your face. It's kind of background. It's like all around you. And that way the bass and the stuff hits you a lot harder. And the screaming is much more intense. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but
no, I totally feel you. And like for me too, like at first it was like I don't know how I feel. So Fall on My Knees is like the definition of that for 7 straight minutes.
I really like that song. Listening to it like driving down the road really loud.
And it's fantastic.
I didn't even notice it was 8 minutes long.
Right. But I think that has that component to it that it's like, oh, I hear that, that cathedral. I think that's a really good like description. I didn't think of it like that. Like this is like inside this church,
right.
Or whatever. That's kind of the feeling that those lyrics, the sound of them give. And for me, like now, I don't want it any other way. At first, I wasn't fully sure about it. But there is like, and I listened to the Kingdom Core podcast that Tommy was recently on, and you're right, like this orthodoxy going back to the Orthodox Church, and for me, like I've been a Christian now, I've been saved for over a decade, right, and even just listening to that and like hearing about the Orthodox Church, I know nothing about the Orthodox Church. So after I like watched that or listened to that podcast, I went and just like researched like the Orthodox Church, and like what it was and like all this stuff and like the craziness, like just like it is Christians that never like were in the West. Like they broke from the Catholic Church or whatever. And like there was no Reformation. There was no Western influence. It's just like how they've been doing it since the earliest times we know. Like, and it's crazy, They don't sit in pews. They sit on the ground. They try to do as many things that they can, like the first church fathers did, And and in a doctrine way, and like obviously we're Protestants, right? Like we don't necessarily think the exact same things, but just like doing research, it's crazy to think about it. There was just literally like this other church that was never in, like it wasn't part of the Catholic Church and the right. separation, the Reformation that happened, and all of this westward like Protestantism. So like when we go to church and like just the basic things we do, where did we get them from? Are they Western ideas, or are they actual like true biblical things,
ancient rituals?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like I don't want this to sound like I'm going to become an Orthodox, because I'm not, like, not, and no hate towards Orthodox Christians, but like, what looks more like what the first church did?
Right.
Probably not your average Sunday gathering at Hillsong.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Yep. Like, and I think that obviously that is listening to the Kingdom Core podcast. And I've said that about 4 times. My boys, Sean and Chris, just getting all the love today. But listening to that podcast, like, that was Tommy's like biggest thing. He's like, I'm going to go back, because what we're doing in this, charismatic movement he's talking about, what in his specific like church, he saw so much corruption, so much like bad things happening, that like, he's like, this can't be it. Like, if I truthfully am looking at what this is cannot be what Christianity is.
Right.
And so he tried to go back to the roots, and he's not Orthodox Christian, but he started going and looking at what they do. And it's just an interesting, like, thought process. I've never thought about it. Ever. I think there might be some stuff to that. Like, sometimes it feels like churches can be a business or a political party or all this type of thing. And it's like, it's not what it was.
Right.
It's not what it was. So, anyways, kudos to the Kingdom Core podcast for getting that out. And now it changes my perspective a little bit on some of this. Like, the cross on the skull on the album art, that's an Orthodox cross. So I had to look it up. The top cross,
the same as Unworthy's cross.
Is it? The top cross is where it's like Pilate wrote Jesus, is king or whatever. The other one where the hands were, and then the footrest. And we'll talk more about the footrest once we get to a song.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Well, yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our intro, right?
Yeah.
20-minute intro, and here we are.
I'm just all riled up right now, dude, talking about orthodoxy.
So before we get into this, I just wanted to like give a shout out to all the people involved in making this.
Yeah, man.
There
absolutely
is a lot.
And they make the album great, dude. Like, all this working together is pretty sweet.
Totally.
And that Sleeping Giant, though, that's the hardcore community, right? You bring other people in, like, let's do this together. Like, that's so cool. I love that.
So, of all the people involved, Tommy Green and Joe Holt are HolyName.
Yes.
And they enlist the help of... This is a very long list, and I'll kind of cover some of them briefly, because I think we'll talk about them some more when the songs come up.
For sure.
But there's Chayton Whiskey. He plays bass, and I think he just joined for a music video that they did, but he's their official bassist now.
Okay.
Matthew Weir, who's also from Sleeping Giant, is the drums. And now all the guest vocals, like so many.
Yes.
Brooke Reeves, Impending Doom, he's on 2 tracks. I think one is like the Impending Doom track, and one is like Man of God.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, his trap, death metal, whatever.
Yeah.
Trapcore. Another one is Aaron Craner, and I'm not entirely sure where he's at, but so you know how there's this like Rev Gang hashtag that they post on everything, and they have like the Sect Rev Gang. I think that's his church. Revival SLC, Salt Lake City.
Yeah. Bro, I'm gonna say it. If you would have listened to the Kingdom Core podcast, you know this.
I'm sorry.
It's
on my list. I've been busy.
I know. I'm kidding.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure his church is involved in this a lot. Then there's Ryan Latrue, right, from For Today and Nothing Left. He's their producer. He did this whole thing. Michael Felker, our dude from Convictions.
Yeah.
Joe Mustin from Advent, which I saw at Furnace Fest. Amazing. Ryan Clark, some guy from a band called Demon Hunter. You may have heard of him.
I thought he was from Training for Utopia.
Yeah, he might be from that too. Okay. You know, maybe like 5 others. Eric Gregson, which is from X Death Star X, which is basically all of Sleeping Giant plus 4 or 5 dudes.
Yeah.
And then the last one is Dan and Sailor, who is the original vocalist, or he was originally from Bullet for a Pretty Boy, but he's the Nothing Left vocalist right now.
Right.
So today we're going to talk about 6 songs.
Yes.
Because we don't have a ton of time. Now we're down to like...
We used it all. We used all of our time up. Dang it.
Yeah. Let's do it. What we're going to do is we're just going to do what we normally do and talk about the songs and try to figure out what they're about.
Creed, Rev Gang.
So Creed, Rev Gang. Yeah. I did some digging. Based on what I could find, I've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but Rev Gang, I believe, is his church.
Yeah, so he said that Rev Gang, there's Rev Gangs from all over, right?
Like revival gangs?
In a sense, yeah, right? Mm-hmm. And so every year they meet together, right? But they also go, there's a Rev Gang in England, he said, that released like a hardcore worship song, and there's all these other people, but they try to meet. They try to meet, right? And so they met one time, and he's like, let's go upstairs and sing. And they sang the chorus of this. And that's what this is from. It's their whole Rev Gang when they met. And that chorus part, Be Holy, Holy, that's his Rev Gang from all over singing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so I thought that was pretty awesome.
I'm glad someone did some research on this.
Do I need to say again what I did?
No, we got it. All right. So let me jump in. So it's featuring Death Star X, probably a group of them. But if you don't know who Death Star X is, I heard them when I was younger. I remember they showed up on Monster Garage. Do you remember that show?
Absolutely not.
So Monster Garage, 2 different teams. Maybe it's just one team. Their job is like take a car and make it a monster, do whatever the challenge is that week. Anyway, they showed up on there one episode, and I remember my dad going crazy, like, that's Death Star X. I'm like, who? What? And that's pretty cool, right?
Do you say that with straight edge bands? Do you say it? Are you supposed to? Because I've never.
No, you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. But
I say it so that people who are going to search for what we're talking about,
and
they know.
You hang around with too many Star Wars nerds. So if you just say Death Star, they're going to be like,
have you guys heard Death Star? What do you mean heard?
I've seen it, and I've seen it rebuilt. So.
Yeah. So anyway, this band, Death Star.
Yes.
They were a straight edge Christian hardcore band from like the early 2000s. And it was basically like, it was really cool because they had 3 vocalists, 2 guitarists, a bass player, and a drummer. Like, that's a lot of dudes on the stage.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah.
And most of them went on to form Sleeping Giant. Others went other places. Mm-hmm. So yeah, really cool. And seeing them all here kind of back together, like, that'd be really cool. Especially if you could see them live and doing something together like that.
Right.
I feel like today that'd be a really cool thing to have like a hardcore group of 3 vocalists, 3 frontmen,
Right.
Like
just sharing the stage together.
It's just not done anymore. You know, that'd be really fun. So this is the Apostles' Creed.
Yes.
So my church occasionally reads the Nicene Creed, which is similar. Yeah. Not entirely the same. And I mean, there's some pieces that I really like about it. I remember when we first read it together as a congregation, there's a part that's even in this song that kind of makes me go like, what? Raise an eyebrow. Like, what do you mean?
Catholic.
Yeah,
I called it. Yeah.
And my pastor like told everyone, he explained it all beforehand, right?
Sure.
But it's a lowercase c. It's not an uppercase. Right. It is not the Catholic religion church, right?
Yeah.
It's talking about universal Catholic, the universal church.
The body of Christ.
Right.
Every Christian.
Yep. So don't read this or listen to the song and go, he's going Catholic?
Right.
What's happening?
Or don't be like, oh, he's going Catholic. Yes, right? Like it's both ways.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's interesting though. Like I've always thought that too, and I've been like, oh yeah, so Universal Church of Christ.
There's a note that I don't know if I want to bring up. I have a problem with this song. Just because when I listen to Christian songs, right, I want to make sure that what I'm going to sing and use as worship is what I believe.
Sure.
And if it's not, or if I feel like it's more about me, then I won't use it as a worship song.
Yeah.
I really like the song. I mean, it's great. The lyrics, everyone pretty much knows them if you're raised in churches, right? Like it's not that crazy to sing this. I love when the harsh vocals come in and all the screaming and stuff. Dude. Like, it's so heavy. And the second time that they come in, there's like that, when like you leave your door open too long?
That's in my note. Seatbelt alarm. Seatbelt reminders going off.
Mine's like door
Bing.
ajar.
Bing.
Ding. Ding. Exactly.
Dude,
Love it.
at first, I really thought it was my seatbelt reminder because it does that. Because I had it loud, man, and I heard it come in, and it just has that ring, like that perfect almost tone. And I like turned it down. Oh, it's the music. Turned it back up, you know. But yeah, it's so heavy.
Yeah, I love the outro screaming when he says, "Bring back the stray,
Yeah,
redeem us according to your blood."
dude. And it's just the bass.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's so good. Oh, it's so good. And like, okay, this song is another example of, in my mind, like what HolyName is. Like, I feel like some stuff was like written after HolyName was like created, but this feels like this was meant to be something else. Obviously, because Rev Gang recorded it, and it was like, let's make this heavy, and they did.
Yeah.
And it shows that just straight dichotomy of it, and like the way that the chorus is sung with all the voices with reverb, you know, and stuff like I just can't get over it. Like, I'm driving down just be holy, holy, high and lifted up, like singing that, you know, and just the way that it is, I love it so much. And then yes, right after that literal like worshipful chorus, it's like, boom, you ready for this? Because
Yep.
and he just, oh, it's groovy, it's heavy, it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't.
Yeah. Lots of scrongles there.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. Like, that's the thing, is like, you know, my wife's like, oh man, like we're driving yesterday too, and this was on, and she's like, oh, I can listen. This is something I can listen to. And then the harsh like part comes on and the screaming, and she's like, what? You know, it just it's different.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, something about this song for me, it just hits everything that I've wanted for a long time. I don't know why.
Yeah, when this single came out, I remember, like, you know, I liked it. I knew the words already as soon as it started, and then when the heavy stuff came in, I was like, man, if the last half of this song, like, I just love that so much. And I eventually, right, it grew on me because I had to get over these cathedral reverbs.
Sure.
And I get it, right? It's much easier to sing along when it's that kind of like watered down, not watered, but that watery reverb. Those that do mixing and stuff will know what I'm talking about. And like, I don't know. And I have a friend that I play Xbox with occasionally, Peter. Hey, if you're listening, what's up?
Peter.
And he doesn't listen to this kind of music.
Yeah.
But he listened to this song. I saw on our Spotify things. He never our musical tastes never lined up.
Sure.
And I saw him listening to Creed, HolyName on Spotify. Right. I was like, "Who are you? And what did you do with Peter?" And I like texted him. I'm like, "Hey," and right, we've met in real life like 3 times, maybe twice.
Sure.
We play Xbox for like the past 5 years or whatever. And anytime I go to the West Coast, we meet up. He comes to the East Coast, we meet up. And like, good guy.
You live on the East Coast?
Sorry, the East Coast of Washington.
Yeah, what's
right
the coast? Lake Coeur d'Alene?
Ocean, Idaho.
East side of Washington State.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, he loves it, right? Because he loves like the Orthodox ology about it.
Sure.
And he loves like just that reverb, that all about God and being hardcore and like heartfelt. And I was like, it's so cool that you know that. Like, so it's great, right? It's opening up his like eyes to more of this kind of music, and I feel like it does it for a lot of people. But yeah, so anyway, I think that kind of wraps up our Creed talk, right?
So this for sure is my favorite song on the album. I don't know if I would say that 5 years ago on any album. Like, I think maybe also musical tastes have changed, or maybe this is something new that I like. I don't understand why I like it so much. Like, I just don't.
It must be the Jesus part.
I mean, I think that's a big part of it. But, like, I don't know, man. I hope more bands try to do stuff like this. And maybe not the same exact way, right? But I love that it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, and maybe you know, because you know a bunch of stuff. I don't know bands that are doing this.
What is this?
Hardcore, blah, breakdowns, screaming, brutalness.
There's
with
really not a
literal
lot of
worship.
Right.
Like, there's bands that do it through the whole song, but it's hardcore the whole way.
Right. There's a lot of bands that do it, but it's hardcore the whole way.
Yeah.
And it's not like a gentle worship that breaks down into a very aggressive, right? It's not like this genre whiplash from the chorus to the verse kind of thing.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what got us into metalcore, right?
Sure.
You got these super catchy hooks in their choruses that you sing along to, and then the verse comes in and bridges and stuff and breakdowns, and you're like, oh man, this is all over the place.
Right.
It's highs, it's lows. But yeah, this is more of a peaceful, honest, humble singing, worship.
Yeah.
And it quickly turns real gritty.
And I think the peaceful vocals, the worship, makes the heavy parts better. Right?
Yeah.
If this is just a heavy song throughout, like, maybe we don't think it's that brutal. But the fact that it isn't makes the ending that much crazier.
Well, we'll see, because we got a few more songs to go.
And I think that's a good piece. Like, the songs we're going to talk about are extremely heavy, and I don't know if they have the exact same, like, heavy feel as the end of Creed.
All right, so let's move on to our third of 6 tracks.
Yes.
Which we chose to do The Sect. All right, The Sect, featuring this guy named Ryan Clark. I did some Googling on him. I guess he's a big deal.
Kind of, yeah.
But he gives us a huge shout out at the start of the song. That is so cool.
Did you know that before, or was it till I text you?
I did not know it before. Like, when you
Yes.
texted me, I was like, what? So I had to look up, and obviously I went through the lyrics, because
Right.
you wrote your notes before I wrote mine.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know he said all-consuming to start.
We have to dub it all-consuming, because he says it such in that classic, like, snarl way. All-consuming podcast. It's just both of us podcast. Like,
Yeah. I don't know.
That'd be
And
great.
some people call us all-consuming. They don't throw
true.
a podcast on because
that's
it's
true.
like,
There's other things we do.
I don't know what we are. We just call ourselves all-consuming podcast because it's a play on all-consuming fire.
If you were to put Tommy Green and Ryan Clark together, like this,
Okay, on a song? Uh-huh.
on a song, would you assume that Ryan Clark would be just the heaviest dude ever throughout it? Or do you think his guest appearance was going to be more of his singing he's done on other stuff?
5 years ago, I
Yeah.
would say the other way, right?
Yeah.
Demon Hunter, like Ryan Clark would be the lighter.
Right.
Knowing what HolyName was and that Tommy Green can't scream anymore,
Yes.
knowing
knew.
that, I'm like, oh, he's got to scream. Like
That's why they got him. And yeah, it's good, man. This song's great.
Ryan Clark was on the album I Am, right?
Yeah,
He
was,
did.
yeah.
He
Yeah,
guested on that too. So that's super cool.
So what do you think about it? Mr. Demon Hunter himself, Gary. How do you feel about this? Like, there's some feelings I get from this.
So okay, yeah. Was this also a single?
I don't think so.
I think
Maybe.
it was.
Oh, maybe.
I think it came
They
out like a
dropped a
week or
ton.
two right before it came out.
They dropped a ton.
Well, I know I listened to it before I listened to the whole album, but I was happy Ryan Clark was screaming.
Yes, it was the last single released.
Yeah, because I remember, like, I told someone, probably you, maybe someone on Discord, that, like, I wish Ryan Clark screamed like this on this new album. One thing I thought was interesting is that when Ryan Clark screams a lot of the stuff, his voice, like, overlaps each other. So he'll, like, scream 3 words, and then when the third one is finishing, he'll start the next 3 words. And so it kind of, like, runs over each other. And that's what the first album of Demon Hunter did a lot. Right. Which they've said, like, it makes it hard to play live.
Because you record one piece, you record another piece, and you move it, right?
Right, yeah. So they overlap a bit, and he does it a lot. Like, the whole verse is just, like, 5 overlaps.
Yeah, and it's
so
quick.
It's like,
it's hard to
if
hear
you're going to do it live, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't.
You
so you're going to need, like, 2 dudes.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I got some really good vibes of Demon Hunter on this. It reminded me of, like, The World is a Thorn.
Yes,
especially like the ending piece. I'm sure we'll talk about when they're both like singing and screaming at the same time. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. I like that.
That could be a band right there. It would be awesome. I would be all for that. Love it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this song?
So I really liked it. And this is a heavier song, right? Like we've talked about Meet Me Somewhere Quiet. We've talked about Creed, and this song's heavy from the start. And there's like the soft choruses, right?
Yep.
Where what we see with like HolyName is sort of the opposite. There's still like soft choruses, but it's like the majority of the song's soft verse, and you can say chorus 1, and then there's a chorus 2 heavy. Verse soft, chorus 1 heavy, or whatever, you know? Like, it just seems like it's flipped in this one to where there's a lot more Ryan Clark, a lot more guest screaming, and less Tommy, which might be the theme as things go along. At what point did they say, we're now writing a HolyName album, let's make this heavy? You know, like they had to at some point switch it and say, now we're writing this for HolyName, not for my journal or my acoustic songs.
And you can kind of tell some of the songs, I think the next few songs we talk about are going to be mostly heavy.
Right.
With like Tommy singing lightly, which I think is what like, right. So the album starts very, I don't know, more of that, Tommy's like clean vocals in the songs, right? It's much softer and gentler, and the longer you get going in, the heavier it gets. And I think by the time it ends, like your first time listening through, you're like, this is really good.
Yes.
Like you kind of start in this gentle place and you end in this very aggressive place with Saint Dismas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, you know, it's like, all right, let's listen to it again.
Yeah.
Like I think I liked it. And that, I mean, that's definitely what happened for me, right? When you're like, let's do this. I listened to the whole album once and I was like, it's good. I don't know what everyone's raving about.
Sure.
And, you know, digging through it again, I'm like, oh, wow. Like,
there's some really cool pieces.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think the song's a good example of that. Like the outro, like you said, man, it is so cool. It's like the way they go back and forth is like that's what I'm here for. That if that was Demon Hunter now or whatever, if that was like, it's just like, oh, I love it. And it brings me those, World is a Thorn vibes in a sense, like part of the song.
Yeah. That outro is so cool. When he says, where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting now? Singing, right? And reverb. Yeah. And Ryan Clark is screaming, stand upon the edge of the valley. I fear no great unknown. So the reason I really like the song, I've talked in the past, right? I have this weird anxiety thing that happens at night when I wake up and I can't fall asleep and I think about dying and the great unknown.
Yeah.
which we've talked about multiple times now. What happens when you die? What's in the afterlife? What if it's just nothing? What if I'm wrong?
Sure.
Like all these things, right? And talking about it now, I have no problem in the daytime, whatever. But when you're like super tired, and that's what happens, like panic attack, like you start to have these fears, and like it's overwhelming. And so I'm like, quickly put on Home Improvement or something to put me to sleep really quick, right?
Yeah.
I put it on my phone and just like slowly fall asleep. So this song is, I think it's like that, right? It's like a 3-part thing, and it starts off with like being afraid of dying, like it's going to come, like, well, what does this mean for me? And then it kind of goes to like, what does he say? End is just another midway. Yeah. Death is just the gates opening wide. Mm-hmm. Like that's the middle ground. Like when you die, you're only halfway there. Like eternity is after that. And I don't know, it's really cool that someone actually openly sings about that. It has this confidence in their lyrics.
Yeah. And
like this faith, right, that I feel when I'm tired at 1 a.m. and can't sleep, I don't have.
Right.
So it's kind of encouraging. And I also wonder why the song is called The Sect.
I'm sure there's a reason, but the chorus and the title of the song, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out, but I think...
What about the chorus? What is it that you don't...
So at first I hear this and I'm singing along to it, or I like it. I used to be afraid I would see you, now I'm seeing you differently. I used to be afraid you would meet me, but now I see you in a different light. I was like, he's talking about God, and that's weird, or maybe different, or maybe not right. But I don't think...
So you just can't make sense of it.
But like you talking about this, it's about death. He used to look at death, I think, maybe. He used to look at death this way, and now he's seeing it differently because, you know what? It's not the end.
Now he's stoked.
In a sense.
Yeah, I totally think that's what it is. I think it was a fear of like, I used to be afraid I would see you. Like, I'm afraid of God and his wrath.
Yeah.
Is he going to be mad at me? Like, will he receive me and say, well done, good and faithful servant? Will he be like, I never knew you? And it's like, yikes. Yeah. Like, stressed, right? And he's saying, now I'm seeing you differently. I see you in a different light. And it's not like this fear of like, I'm afraid of dying. It's this, it turns around to this like confidence.
Right.
Of this, there is an afterlife. There is more to this than earth.
Yeah. It's a really interesting song. Like,
yeah,
the idea of it, I love that you can connect to it. Like, I also, like, you think about just doubts, not necessarily doubting, and I don't know if he's not doubting Christianity here. He's just scared and fearful. And
yeah, I think he had more of a fear of God than like a sovereign reverence.
A fear
or like
of meeting God, a fear of dying.
Yeah.
And now you see it in a different light. Like, that's another interesting piece. Like, at what point are you just like, in your life, let's do this. You know what? I've been here for 80 years and I'm ready.
Yeah, like in verse 4, he says, I'm not afraid to die. Holy Ghost descends and he rests in my spirit. Yeah. I embrace the pain. I'll endure the dark cloud. I will see the face of God. Like, hide me in your heart, O gracious Messiah. Like, that's, I don't know, that's some awesome lyrics to have the confidence to say that and believe that and sing that. Like, that's really cool to write down in song.
Yeah. That is. I like it. I think it's a different song. And maybe this is leaning more towards, maybe this was written in the midst of his ideas of like his doubts of what he was a part of and the things that were going on, the corruption he saw. And maybe he's like, man, like, now he's seeing it differently. Like, the idea of death, and it's heartfelt. There's some real deep, tender pieces, like stuff we don't like to talk about.
Yeah, so I think that will wrap up the Sect. Let's move on to the next song we decided to talk about. They See.
So I am so excited for anything Convictions in 2023. I'm a huge fan, especially of their like latest album and the single they released, Stigmata. So when I saw that Michael Felker was on this track, I was stoked. And truthfully, it didn't disappoint. Like, there is some brutal Michael Felker on this.
Yes. You know, I saw Convictions here live last summer.
Jealous?
With Earth Groans.
Yeah.
And I went up afterwards and was like, hey, I'm from Welcome to Me podcast. And, you know, whatever. Doing my plug there and talking to him. And he told me in early 2022, when there's only like 2 singles out or 3, that he's featured on a HolyName song. And he had to write all of his own lyrics.
Oh.
And I was like,
that's
no way. He's like, everything you've heard so far, he's like, it's going to be heavy, let me tell you. And I was like, cool. So I've had this like hidden nugget of excitement.
There's going to be
for a
HolyName
song. Yeah. Right. So yeah, listening to this album, when this song starts, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on? But yeah, it's really cool. And, you know, Michael posted on his Instagram like this like little spiel of how he grew up with a Sleeping Giant poster on his bedroom wall.
Yeah.
And like it's so awesome to like be seen by these people as a peer and to come on and like look at all these names that he's on this album with.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. So it's really great to see this kind of attention for him.
Right. And I think Convictions too is like getting better. Like they've found their sound, right? They know who they are, and they're like getting every album they release is like, man, this is their best stuff. At least that's what I feel, you know? And so I'm so excited for what they're going to do. And this song's awesome, man. It is, now lyrically, it's very wrathful. Very like, you know, different.
I'm down to talk about it.
Go for it. You started off, and I'll
no, I mean, you can talk about it too. I'm just saying, like, if you don't know answers and I don't know, I'm down to like, let's figure it out.
Okay. So like, I see this as like, here is all the corrupt people, the disgusting people, like, they see God though, like they see what's happening, and eventually like they're all like, every knee shall bow.
Right.
God is in control, and your time is coming. You know, and it's like the dark part of that in many parts of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Michael's parts are that I'll say Old Testament.
Sure.
Wrathful. He seems to call out for justice, like in an aggressive way, right? Like, sever crooked spines, people that are crooked. Like, he's not talking about people with disabilities, okay? Destroy perverted minds, idolatrous, do away with this, right? Like, it's these sinful things that he's saying, these things need to stop. Like, telling God, come slaughter this, right?
End it.
Yeah, where Tommy's lyrics are like asking God for help, describing the mightiness of God.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this dichotomy between the two of like how they're talking to God.
And both say the same thing, but way differently, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't know what you mean.
I feel like even Tommy's lyrics are like, heaven's gonna win. It's gonna happen. Every knee's gonna bow. People will see.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
And then he has that chorus where he says, you know, heaven will help us.
Yeah.
Heaven sees the hell that we take. Like, what happens to us.
Yeah.
He sees our suffering. And then he says, heaven will come for you. It sees the hell that we make. Like, everything you're doing. He's like, heaven's coming for you. Not in a good way.
Right. And Michael Felker's lyrics expound or show like just this picture of brutality.
Yeah, I like that first verse that he does, and I kind of struggled with it when I first heard it because I also didn't look up the lyrics, and now I've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
But there's a line where he's like, you know, destroy perverted minds. They're led astray by the father of lies. You will not have them. Lost sons and daughters, you will not have them. And at first I thought it was like, is he telling God,
yeah,
you won't have lost sons and daughters? And I don't think that's the case.
No,
I think
no.
he's telling Satan, the lost sons and daughters, you will not have them.
Right.
And then later, when he's screaming like the best part of the song, in my opinion, when he says, flood the earth, reveal your wrath. I am the bringer of death. I am the breaker of evil. Touch not my holy ones.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the voice of God saying, I am the bringer of death. I am the breaker of evil. And touch not my holy ones. Coming down to save people, right?
Yeah.
But the vocals on that part are just so awesome.
The lyrics, the way that Michael screams it is insane. It's like so brutal. My favorite part of the song, and every time it comes on, it's like, turn this up. Let's go.
Yeah, I like when you're like, how are your notes going? And I just texted you.
With like a screaming preacher, right? Like some gif of a preacher like,
did I?
Something like that. It was some sort of gif.
Oh, I did. Oh, the melting face.
That's what it was. Yes.
Indiana Jones melting face.
Preacher.
Like, that's my reaction. Is my face was melting to him screaming that.
There's this part in the Kingdom Core podcast that Tommy says, like, after he went through like some stuff, dude, like, and I really encourage people to go like watch it. I think for me, like, this episode of their podcast, like where Tommy is just being vulnerable, completely open, he goes through a lot of stuff, right? And in all of those like absolutely terrible things that happened to him, he said he called on God and God was silent, right? Like questioning if he saw what he was going through, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like that Job type of deal, right? And this song is, I feel like it's different, right? In a sense, he's like, they see it. It might not feel like it.
Right.
But heaven sees. God sees. And God knows. And even when it felt like he wasn't, and he wasn't there, it's a big, it's true. Like, and people go through so many terrible things. You turn on the news, you turn on social media, whatever, you see absolutely disgusting, horrible things happening every day in our nation and the world. And God sees. It's the song is like heavy, like obviously musically, but it's also heavy.
Yeah, and I get the aggression to be like, bring on the slaughter.
Yeah, it's
like,
gotta be.
Destroy this wickedness.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's definitely from a place of, I don't know, desire for justice, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. There is a really cool line that I like, and I had to look it up because it was way too specific.
Yeah.
When he says, the fate of 185,000 idolaters.
Oh, yeah.
Do away with this. Lord, intervene from the unseen realm. Purge the blind, right? It's like, what? That's a specific number. So I looked it up. I don't know the Bible this well, but it's a reference to 2 Kings.
Yeah, and I think there's other references too, through two stories, but that one specifically I didn't know either, and so I looked it up. And like, he's showing all these pieces talking about like when things happened, right? Like,
yeah, angel shows up, kills 185,000 Assyrians in the night, and people woke up early in the morning, dead bodies. That would be just the weird, like, we're going to war tomorrow, boys. Wake up bright and early. First one up, wake everyone up. Wake me up when you wake up. And they all get up and, oh, our job is done. I think that transitions us from this song to the next song we picked, which is Celestial.
Yes. So Celestial is featuring this cool guy named Joe Mustin. Yep.
And we've talked about him a lot on this podcast.
Dude, how? Because you know what happened? Like, I asked you, we were editing our last episode, and I said, hey, who is this Joel Mustin guy? What's he from?
What, our Album of the Year episode?
When we were editing it, I asked you, because I was listening to this song, and I really liked it. I asked you, and you're like, Advent, duh.
Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on, like, almost every Sleeping Giant album.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's just been on a lot of stuff, right? Very influential. He was in a band called Beloved. He was the drummer / screamer.
Yes.
Beloved was a big hit for my generation, I'll say. Maybe a generation and a half a generation above me.
Sure.
I mean, he went from that to Advent, which, awesome band. Saw them at Furnace Fest. A lot of Jesus talk. Super awesome. Like, it was a great time. I was, like, standing in the back of the shed. Not the back, just right in the middle, right? Where I thought, this is where the sound guy's at. This has to be the best spot.
Right.
And I found myself every song, like, moving 10 rows of people closer. Like, oh, this is good. Gotta get closer. Oh, this is good. I gotta get closer.
That's cool.
Anyway, great. A lot of fun. But another fun thing is he was the drummer for the Almost for, like, 8 years.
What? I didn't know that.
After Southern Weather. Anyway, to this song, vocals, I think he made the song. Like, I think the song's really cool because the way Tommy sings is a little different than the other songs.
Yeah.
He adds inflection and actually sings some parts where instead of like a chant or like a holding a note, I felt like he actually sang stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard, like, for the chorus part, like, it's hard to hit that sometimes when you're trying to sing along.
Celestial being.
So you're still too low. Celestial being. I'm too low. Like, what are we doing here? Like, and so, like, you're trying to sing along in the car. Like, okay, there it is. But, like, yeah, it is totally different. And I like it. I think it's definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. 100%. Joel Mustin is fantastic. Love the way he screams.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah, and I like the song because it's like a congregational worship.
Yeah.
It's like, celestial beings bow down before God, right? Angels bow. Yeah. And then he says terrestrial, like earthlings, earth people, bow down and be made whole. Like, everybody is going to bow.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty simple concept, and the rest is like kind of talking about how holy God is and, magnify, glorify, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I like that concept too, because, like, the idea of, like, terrestrial, like, we don't really use that as often, or I don't.
Yeah.
We always use extraterrestrial, like, thinking of outside, right? Outside. But, like, terrestrial, like us, beings on this earth. And so I thought it was a really cool a way to show that everything, celestial and terrestrial, are bowing before the throne. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep, and I love Joe's part. I like how there's like a talking part that my first time hearing this, it was not on good quality.
Yeah.
So, not that the song wasn't on, I mean, I was on my phone, I think, like taking a shower or something. And I was like, I have no idea what he's saying. It is just drowned out. Like, I hear nothing. And I really want to know what he was saying, but listening like really loud down here in the basement or like in the car, like with like this, because Tommy's singing at the same time.
In a lot of it, the back
end. And so you kind of just hear him kind of start and be like, kind of that sleeping giant, like, we're going to chant some words. He's like, magnify, glorify, creation reordered, right? And I really like that there was like this talking piece, and that was pretty cool. And at the same time, Tommy's singing this like high reverb, the Lord of Heaven's army shine.
Yeah.
It's just a cool part. It's like a really cool bridge after like the chorus has been done like 3 times, and you're like, I get it. Celestial beings. Got it.
Yeah. The part, you're talking about the talking part, like, that's, to me, I was like, it's Sleeping Giant, Preachcore lives, let's go. Like, so, and that's like not the first time I thought of Sleeping Giant in the album, but that was like, this could be a Sleeping Giant song.
Yeah.
It for sure could be, and just the way that it goes back and forth, and really cool. One of my favorite songs, for sure.
Yeah, that bass guitar tone that just starts.
Oh
like,
my gosh!
It's just like.
So good. Yeah, this song is really, and we're not talking about Joe Holt very much in this episode, but he's really good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he is really good at what he does.
I mean, yeah, it's the sound of the stuff, right? The music behind this is perfect for what it is. Like,
yes.
For this sound. Like I was saying, if you just have 3 seconds to listen to any piece of any of these songs, you immediately know, like, that is the sound, the guitar tone, and then this, like, reverb heavy singing, right? Plus harsh vocals and whatnot. Like, it's just like this new hardcore vibe. And I'd love to see a whole, like, year or two worth of copycats.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
let's see what comes out of it.
Yeah, and see if this is like a dead end hardcore thing, or if this is going to be like a new wave of hardcore worship.
I think too, like, the idea that you could get a mosh pit to start after Meet Me Somewhere Quiet.
Celestial beings.
After, like, you know what I mean? Like, and there's no way, like, you go to a show that people are not going nuts during those parts, because it's like, I feel it. Like, it's just like, this is great. And I like what he did with it. Like, he got a lot of free reign, I assume, and there's parts where it's like, I want to bust down the door.
So are you throwing haymakers at your brothers in Christ?
Yeah. Literally, and I think I said this before, hands up in praise, next is elbow to the back. Better watch out. Right? You're going to get rocked.
You got some sweet moves, Dad. Okay. I wish people could see your sweet moves.
And then all of a sudden you go back to it and you're praising God again, and then boom, haymaker, roundhouse kick. Boom. Like,
all right.
I really hope, and if they go, here's my deal, Gary. If they go to Furnace Fest this year, I'm going. Is there ever they're married, they're doing their own things. This was not like what they need to do. They've already done this before, the music thing. Are they ever going to play live again? If they do like this one big festival, probably not.
Maybe, yeah. So anyway, I think that's it for Celestial, right? You have other notes?
I'm good on that. And I think that brings us to our last song, Saint Dismas. So Gary,
so Tyler,
I being the person that doesn't know, and I feel weird now that I didn't know, looked up Saint Dismas and who he was.
Okay.
And then right away I see all this like other in the Wikipedia or whatever, or in media, and it says also named for the rock band or whatever, Dismas with a Z.
With a Z, yeah.
And I thought of you because you showed me them many times, and we rocked Passion, Glory, Redemption, Passion, Glory all the time. And because you liked it so much, I also really like it too.
Oh, good.
It's a jam, dude. It really is. And that's what I thought about. But I also learned who Saint Dismas was.
For the first time?
Well, I knew who the penitent thief was.
Okay, yes.
I just didn't know he was
had
Dismas,
a name. Right.
because it comes from other texts in a sense. But, like, it makes a lot of sense, obviously, with the lyrics. So I think you can start this bad boy out.
Sure. So yeah, let's focus on that. Dismas is the name of one of the two thieves.
Yeah.
Supposed name of one of the two thieves on the cross next to Jesus. So whenever it's talked about, that is what people assume. He is not mentioned in the Bible, in the canonical Bible we have, right? He is just known as the thief, right? One of the two thieves, the one who believes in God at the end, not the other one. He has a name too, Gretus or something like that. Don't remember. But anyway, the name comes from an apocryphal book or writing from it, which takes place 200 years after the events that the book is about happen, which is why it's given a grain of salt, right? It's not included in the Bible because how can you write these things as facts 200 years after they've happened, right? Whatever. But when people say the name Dismas, they associate with that guy, Saint Dismas, and that's a Catholic thing, calling him Saint Dismas,
And Orthodox thing.
and Orthodox thing, I guess.
Yeah, saints. They're in there
But
too.
the point of this song is none of that. It is this person, Dismas's perspective on the cross dying. And this song is featuring Nothing Left.
Yeah.
Which is a band, right? Featuring a band.
So it's not just the vocalist, right? I would assume.
I don't know, man. Maybe they just...
Is Ryan LaTrue also jamming?
From what I see in here is... of who is involved, it sounds like it was just the singer in the credits of it anyway. But I have no idea. Maybe there's more involved than just him, right? Ryan is the guitarist in the band. He's also the producer, and then Dannon is on there too, and that's their actual singer, right? Originally from A Bullet for Pretty Boy, but Nothing Left is like a super group that is really great. If you like this song, you should go check out their album because it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
But it's like a group of people from For Today, Silent Planet, Take It Back with an exclamation mark, and A Bullet for Pretty Boy.
Yeah.
It's great. It's fun stuff. It's Ryan's band. It's Tyler, what are your thoughts on this song?
So I like it a lot, especially after like diving in and seeing like this is about the thief and just unworthy. Like that is the point, right?
Yeah, and
That's
they
the
gave
point.
our friends in Unworthy a shout out.
Yes. There we go. Dennis, Jordan, this is about you guys. No, it's not. The whole song's point, though, Gary, I mean, which is, I assume, why the band Unworthy is called Unworthy, is, yes, Dismas is unworthy. He's dying for his crimes on the cross. He's being crucified, right?
That he is guilty of.
Guilty of. He did it, and he knows he did it, right? And he knows he has to pay for it. But he says and believes in Jesus as the Messiah and says, remember me. Yep. And Jesus says to him, today you'll be in paradise.
Yep.
That small picture of the thief on the cross is us, is our salvation. We are unworthy. We do not bring anything to the table except for our sin.
Yep.
We don't bring anything. And so it's really an awesome picture. I've always thought about that, right? Like the idea of the thief being on the cross and every single person there, Jews of the time, right? The Romans, the
Gentiles,
other thief on the cross next to him,
mocking him,
are mocking him, are making fun of him, throwing insults, except for Dismas, who believes and knows. And in that moment, it doesn't matter because he has faith in Jesus. That as you're dying, being crucified.
I really like this song for exactly what you're saying, right? It's this, all the lyrics in this is like, he's saying, you're the king who came to serve. I will get what I deserve. I'm just a crook. I'm nothing else. And he says, you are Christ.
Yeah.
And that he is not guilty. I'm going to follow you all of my life, whatever's left of it.
For Dismas, not much.
Right. He said, even when there's nothing left, all my life. Like, I don't know. Like, the song is just like this. It just focuses on this unworthiness. I've done nothing. I deserve nothing. I am guilty. There's this man dying here who did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He's completely innocent, and people mock him. And they're like, calling him the king of the Jews as an insult.
Sure.
And he's saying, "Oh king, remember me."
Yeah.
Like, lyrically, it's goosebumps, it's great song. And I think it's a great way to end the album too, with like this full unworthy mindset.
Yeah. And as not comforting as it sounds, it is comforting. We don't mean much. We're small. We're insignificant. God doesn't need us. It's not about us at all. And if anyone shows that, it's Dismas. He had no peace, no rule, no, you know what I mean? There was nothing there besides the fact that he had faith in Christ.
Yeah, he had nothing but the cross he was nailed to. Right?
That was it.
So it's not like a money thing. It's not a status. It's not who you know.
Nope. And it would be really easy to also mock. Right, like the other dude that's dying too is like, get us off this. If you're really the Messiah, like, save us. Yep. And he doesn't do that. He repents, and he believes. Like, it's evident by his faith, and it's a really, really good reminder to us that we are unworthy, just like Dismas, and God saved us.
And I think this is arguably the heaviest song on the album.
I would agree. I think it is that. Yeah, I think it is the heaviest. I do like also that Nothing Left said nothing left.
Do they?
Yeah, like that's pretty cool. Going back to the beginning on the album, the Orthodox cross, the bent cross part, the footrest, supposedly is pointing up to the right side where Dismas was
right
crucified, and down to the other thief, or whatever, right? And so it also represents in that cross the unworthiness of mankind, right? The idea that we are not worthy, but God saves. And so I think that's a pretty cool piece to that too, and to end it with Dismas in relation to that. It's pretty cool.
So I think that wraps up the whole album and our kind of review of what we liked, right?
And as we're like wrapping this up, I'm like, why didn't we do more songs as we're 2 hours in? I mean, whatever. But like, I think like for me, and I'm going to say this is one of my favorite albums of recent releases in the last 5 years.
I will say this. I did not buy the vinyl when it came out, and I thought this will not be album of the year for sure. Yeah. And I thought I just not a fan. After digging into it and actually listening and spending time on stuff and seeing it as a heartfelt worship with very heavy elements to it, I've grown to like it a lot, and I have bought the vinyl.
Gary, that makes me happy.
Yeah, but
it's still not your album of the year, but that's okay.
But we'll see.
That's
I think
okay.
We got an exciting year ahead of us. So.
I think so too, and I think we both like it. It's like you said, is this going to start some sort of genre that maybe we see? Is this going to have other bands dabble in this idea of being worship hardcore? So I like what we got going here. I'm all about new things, even if it takes me a little bit of time to get into it. And I think that's what this was for me. It's something different, and I'm excited for it. And I love the way it made me feel. I think that's the biggest deal too. This album made me feel stuff, and it made me think about my life, and it made me think about my relationship with God.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just you that likes it, right? After 1 week, they posted all their like stats on the Billboard.
Yeah.
And it's like number 1 top Christian / gospel albums, number 10 top new artists, like number 15 current hard music albums, and number 42 in indie label current albums. Like, they're on the Billboard in 4 different categories.
People like them.
In a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's tons of people that are like, whoa, I didn't know Christian music could be this heavy. And it's like, okay, first, where have you been? Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I think it's opening hardcore up to be more mainstream.
Right. Which isn't a bad thing. And it brings more people maybe into the scene.
Yeah.
Right. And it's fantastic. And I think other people, like even on our Discord, before we even said we were doing this episode, they asked, when are you guys going to do HolyName? Because a lot of people are into it, you know, which is awesome.
Yep.
And I hope we get more. Are we going to get more HolyName, or was this just a one album thing? Are we ever going to see him live? That's to be determined, but I'm all in for it. I'm ready.
So I want to wrap up by thanking our patrons for supporting us. And if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, buy us a cup of coffee by joining our Patreon.
Yes.
And if you want to be part of the conversation and join a community of like-minded people, join our Discord server, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you for listening.